Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. I honestly didn't think I would be making these videos, but the new season has actually pleasantly surprised me, and I've got at least some ideas for 2 to 5 videos that I might want to make on all of the changes. And this is the first one, which will feature the new Vortex. Now I'll be up against Pell, and well, one of the things that changes is that Vortex is now available in starter packs. I didn't get it here. Actually, I'm going to buy it myself, but that does kind of open up different types of compositions. And well, it just turns out that currently Vortex seems rather powerful. The tech bar has changed ever so slightly from what it was previously when it was meta. And the main thing here, I think, that has kind of spurred that is the accumulator shield. So before, I think it needed something like 12 shots before you would create a shield on the current location of the Vortex. That has now been brought down to 5 initially, and then it goes up by an additional 5 for every subsequent shield. So the first one's 5, the next one 10, the one after 15, etc, etc. But it means that you get the shields much faster. And keep in mind that the twins that you can spawn, the Mirage, also will spawn a shield of its own. So things can get really crazy, and that's kind of what I was going for here in this particular game. Now my opponent is a Typhoon specialist, I am an Amplify specialist, and they are starting with Spiders and Void Eye. Very strong opener, and not so surprising here that it do end up losing. But, you know, I felt okay about the situation. I only had 2 Vortexes. The moment I start getting a few more, you know, up to 5, if I manage to perhaps level them, get some techs, I should be okay. And I had a relatively good opener, having crawlers already and having Mustangs as well, which pair very nicely with the Vortexes. I run high explosive and cunning rounds in case I need chaff clearing, and yeah, the rest will basically all be on the shoulders of the crabs. Round number 2, we do get some pretty scary spells offered. I mean, all of the cards here really are something you could consider. Shield airdrop, lovely. Redeploy, I mean, you could try and go for some plays on the right side of the field. Rhino assault, likely going to end up, you know, with a round win here if you pick it. And improved wraith in a headbutt, extremely scary, but I didn't really have, you know, the composition here for it. I found it would be really awkward for me to, you know, get into that, and I kind of thought my opponent would go for something like a Phoenix, but they don't. So another option here would have been to sell a Mustang and immediately go for an improved Wraith and play that, but I decided I kind of want to test the Mustang Vortex comp. Let's go for that instead. And yeah, I go for the shield. Very happy here that my opponent just drops the Rhino on top of one of my Vortexes. I did not defend, you know, my towers here too well. I was kind of okay with losing the round, but it turns out that I might end up winning it because all that's left here is that Fang on the right side of the field. Opponent did level that tower and added a Fang to defend it. I only added a Fang to stall the potential Rhino if it was, you know, going to be dropped somewhere over here. And I will likely end up leveling it pretty soon. Round number 3, we have unit reinforcements. And I decided to pick up the marksman here because one of the things I am somewhat vulnerable to is, you know, slightly beefier air units. My Mustangs can deal with squishier stuff, but especially after clicking culling rounds now to be able to chaff clear, I don't expect them to be able to kill things like a Phantom Ray too quickly, or, you know, even bigger things like a Wraith or an Overlord. So triple marksman it is, and yeah, the others just not that necessary here. Arclight and Badger both chaff clear. I already have that covered with my Mustang, so DPS seems like, you know, the most logical thing to pick. I'm also going to buy a couple more Vortexes here. I believe I bought 3 or perhaps 2, and one of them picked up a level, which I was very happy about because that really kickstarts this comp. If you can manage to get some levels early on Vortexes, they are a nightmare to deal with. And at the same time, my opponent here is going to be showcasing the new Typhoon, which can be purchased now at will. It has a entirely new tech bar. I'm not going to go over it in too much detail because I do want to make a video about that as well. So that is coming soon if it's something you're interested in. We can have a quick look at what they are running, which is going to be range, self-explanatory. Wreckage detonation, which is essentially a chaff clear tech, a very good one at that. Definitely worth having on the bar if you want to give New Typhoon a go. Yeah, creates these explosions upon kill. Exceptionally good against, obviously, chaff. And then other things, we have field reassembly, which is kind of just a better quantum reassembly. As you don't need Typhoons to be alive, they will simply respawn by default. No need to have another one still alive. And they will do it after 5 seconds, which is very, very quick. And then we have field entrenchment, which is the same as on Sabertooth. So yeah, a good tech bar overall here. Could get very scary in the long run. We are going to see wreckage detonation being picked up. At the same time, I am starting to build my army of crabs. The playstyle is still very similar to what it used to be, which I guess is kind of to be expected for a 100 cost unit. Typically, when they're meta, you kind of just want to spam them, and that is no different here. I am going to go for Accumulator Shield first. Now, whether that's something you want to do always is up for debate. I think range first is always safe as well, but I kind of wanted to see how this would do, and I happen to be in a headbutt here, so I felt like the range wasn't the most important thing. As you can see, my Vortexes didn't really have to move too much to be able to shoot at the enemies, although here we can start seeing that they are getting hit. My opponent went for suppression shots on their Void Eyes, so that is starting to factor into the calculation, so perhaps here range would have been better in hindsight. But I'm not too unhappy about how the round is going. I mean, look at all of these, you know, bubbles being created. Really, it's a relatively close round. Does seem like my opponent will end up winning it, as their Typhoons are absolutely shredding, and mainly their Void Eyes are just being a pain in my ass right now with yeah, these Void Eyes and the suppression shot. And so at this point, I'm quickly realizing, okay, I need to try and get the second tech range enhancement on my Vortexes as fast as possible. Keep them at bay from the Vortexes, not from the Vortexes, from the Void Eyes. And yeah, here we go. Thankfully, the good thing with playing 100 cost units is that you will often have extra cash available to be able to get more techs. And that's exactly what we do here. Range enhancement has been picked up. The shield out drop is back off cooldown. We're going to grab another Mustang as well as another Crawler here to try and protect anything from getting insta-locked. And we even have money to go for a third deploy, which is going to be a second Crawler. Yeah, do keep in mind that you still want to be fleshing out your chaff as the game progresses. My opponent has been doing a good job of that as well. As we can see, a good amount of Crawlers already, 7 on this side of the field. And I was starting to think maybe I need to consider high explosive on top of culling rounds in the long run here to be able to keep up with the chaff clearing. Opponent already has range enhancement next to wreckage detonation on their Typhoons, so his chaff clear situation should pretty much be covered. And the only thing now that they would need to think about is how are they going to kill the Vortexes, because the Void Eyes did well, but there's no charge shot on them. And yeah, you need some pretty beefy DPS units to be able to take these guys out. I think my preference would probably be something in the lines of a Titan, typically Mountain, if the opponent is really heavily spamming Vortexes. After grid integration got nerfed, it does get very difficult for Vortex to kill, especially something like a level 2 Mountain by itself. So that would be my go-to. And I mean, we can start seeing here that these little guys do get quite scary. My Mustangs end up dying pretty quick, but as much as I was, you know, thinking about high explosive, it's not really that much of a problem. I mean, some Crawlers are getting in, but because I have so many Vortexes and because of how quickly it fires, it doesn't do too bad of a job of chaff clearing for itself. And if I plan to go for electromagnetic twin at some point, I'll have double the amount of Vortexes and double the amount of chaff clearing they provide. So it's a weird kind of comp where, yeah, you do want some chaff clear, but also, you know, keep an eye on whether or not the enemy chaff is actually causing any problems. Because right now I am winning rounds, and you know, even though my Mustangs are dying early, it doesn't seem to be the biggest problem against what now is 8 Crawlers on one side of the board. Round number 6, we get unit reinforcements. I picked the wrong thing here. I didn't want to pick Wraith. I wanted to pick something I could just sell immediately. That being said, Wraith is not a bad sell. It's actually worth the most across 2 rounds, so it's kind of all right. I end up selling one. The other one I can keep somewhere on the board to help chaff clear. I think why I picked it is because I thought, oh, maybe I need more chaff clearing ability, but, you know, as I said, I just won the round and it didn't really seem to be that big of an issue, so I'd rather just have more money in the bank to be able to buy more vortexes and start thinking about a third tech, which would be electromagnetic twin for me, because those two will benefit from the accumulator shield, and at that point, that's a lot of bubbles on my side of the field. Attack 1, Defense 1 are going to get picked up here. A little bit behind on schedule, I guess. Typically, my rule of thumb for that would be around 5. You want to have them, but, you know, if you have other stuff to buy, then so be it. I am going to go for high explosive here on the Mustangs, as it's really cheap as a second tech, and it can't hurt. I had the money available. And now we can see how this will do. My opponent picked up the Scorpion from the unit drop, level 3, added 2 more. And I was a little bit scary, or a little bit scared, rather, about this level 3 Scorpion. Because yes, it does a lot of damage, but also it's extremely beefy. And I could be in trouble trying to take that down. The other ones, though, I'm not too bothered about. The thing is, Scorpion shoots really slowly, and Vortexes typically can be spaced enough from one another that they don't end up getting splashed by a single Scorpion shot. On top of the fact that if they're equal level, or if they're a level up, rather, compared to the Scorpion, they won't get one shot. And at this point, I have level 3 Vortexes for the most part. So a level 1 Scorpion shooting at this is not going to have a good time. It needs 3 shots. That is a lot to be able to get through a 100 cost unit. Round number 7, Electromagnetic Impact shows up. I am going to pick it up. This did get nerfed, which is a nice thing. Not exactly the nerf I would have liked. I feel like making it a little bit more expensive or tuning its cooldown to be 3 rounds instead of 2 would have been better. Instead, it now does less damage to shields, which is at least something, and definitely a welcome change. I am, of course, going to have to put down 2 bubbles. Kind of just willing to gamble that the outside Vortex here wouldn't get targeted because it is kind of far away from the rest. And typically people will try to hit as many units with an EMP impact as possible. And yeah, just going to grab more crawlers here, as I did pick up the third tech on the Vortex, now Electromagnetic Twin. And for now, I was thinking, you know, that last round didn't look too bad. And I think especially once we double the amount of Vortexes we have, we should easily have the damage to take out everything on the enemy board. As I mentioned, I'm not really too scared of level 1 Scorpions here. They just don't have the damage to be able to take down the high-level crabs. And it's mostly about all of the units here in the middle. But if I can collapse somehow from the side, yeah, things get pretty nasty. And just look at the amount of shields right now that are going to be spawned. It is absolutely crazy. And yeah, the first 2 procs are so quick. The initial one at 5, but the subsequent one after 10 shots also. Just look at that. Like, what are we even looking at right now? So difficult for the enemy to get through, and especially when the opponent went for something like Scorpion, which shoots very slowly. There's a high chance that one of their shots just gets absorbed by a shield, and then they're stuck reloading for another 4.5 seconds. So yeah, definitely not my unit of choice to try and deal with Vortex. As I mentioned, I would probably try and go for Mountain, even on the unit drop round. Just try and sell or pressure the right side tower. I haven't talked too much about the right side here. It's one of those weird games where both of us kind of under defend our open tower. I could have gone for an attack here, but I just kind of wanted to make my strong side even stronger because it was winning me rounds. So, you know, why try and use 3 deployments on this side when I can just, you know, keep on winning over here. I did make a level 3 tower, so it's not super worthwhile for my opponent at this stage to try and take it. And I am kind of defending it as well with a couple of chaff units and a missile as well. So it wouldn't be the easiest for my opponent to get in. Also, you know, the fact that they would have to probably expend 2 or 3 deployments their entire round essentially to be able to get in, which means that the left side would struggle even more. We do get field entrenchment now on the Typhoons, triple tech, so they gain now more range, more HP, which is, I mean, definitely good stats for what is a relatively cheap tech. We'll have to see if it makes the difference. Acid as well on the Scorpion. Not convinced that will do too much, but it does pair nicely with Typhoon, allowing them to be able to deal some damage if the Acid lands. We can see that some Vortexes there do get picked off pretty quick, but I have so many of them. It is completely insane at this point, and I haven't even clicked my final tech, which is a Grid Integration. Now, this is probably the tech that you could swap for something else. I think Mobile Power Station is the other tech that you could consider, which gives units within range, or which gives units extra range and bonus attack, or maybe it only gives the Vortex bonus range and then creates an aura that gives bonus attack. I believe it's 20%. It's not, you know, the same amount of damage that you can get from Grid Integration, which did get nerfed, but still 105% across all of your Vortexes is a lot. And yeah, in these type of scenarios, if you're dealing with very beefy units, Grid Integration is definitely going to be best. But, you know, if you just want a generally like good aura buff, and you really value the bonus range, then Mobile Power Station is a good fourth tech to run as well, and something worth trying. Round number 9, we have unit reinforcements yet again. At this point, I'm not really looking for anything anymore. Happy to just take the Sabertooth and sell. And yeah, I mean, I'm not scared of much at this stage, really. I have 2 level 2 marksmen. My anti-air isn't the strongest, mind you. I mean, my Mustangs are unranged, so they probably do die, and level 2 marksmen could potentially struggle against certain units. But, you know, if my opponent goes for an air unit here, their ground will lose so heavily that I think I can buy enough time for my marksman to get through stuff. Plus, I'm at 4,500 hit points here, so even if somehow I do end up losing to, let's say, a level 2 Abyss, I have plenty of time to just build melting points if I really need to. Opponent goes for the Sabertooth, keeps it, tries out field maintenance, but we click our final tech on the bar, Grid Integration. So yeah, we're gonna have a quick look at how these Vortexes do. Keep in mind, this level 5 Vortex on the edge also has an amplifying core, and yeah, its attack is pretty scary for a unit that fires every 1.5 seconds. I think it hasn't quite shown yet the Grid Integration buff, or does it? I think it does. I mean, 18,000 is nasty for sure. And yeah, I don't know how long that took, but that's a Sabertooth that just vanished from the board. We still have some chaff incoming here, and you can see the big problem. The Scorpions just, they can't hit enough targets. They can't fire fast enough to be able to get through all of this. And so round 9 is going to seal the deal as the Vortexes are properly online. And yeah, that'll be the game. So kind of a similar strat to when the Vortex was first released, but instead of, you know, really hammering on Grid Integration, it seems like Accumulator Shield is definitely a very, very good tech and something to try out. You do want to be relatively spam heavy. I think Mustang is a great pairing in terms of chaff clear. And yeah, if you're facing this, I think the best thing to do is go for something like Mountain. Now, I couldn't really find a solid strat on the last round to win here if I'm Pell, but I think where I would have played things a bit different is on round 6 with this unit drop. I don't think Scorpion is good into Vortex, as I mentioned before, and I think here is where I would have done something a bit different. So one thing is that my tower is level 2, and it is worth maybe trying to pressure that with the drops that are available. We have some units to sell still. We have these tarantulas that are doing nothing. They've been replaced by the typhoons as chaff clear, so we don't want to pick something that, you know, requires multiple turns to sell. And ideally, we pick something that can pressure the left side tower. So I think Phoenix here would likely be the best. It doesn't sell for necessarily the most, but again, I can sell it in one turn and it provides good pressure. So what I'm gonna do here is put this crawler here to pull all of the fangs away, open up that tower for the phoenixes, and then I'm going to also add the rhino drop that's back off cooldown to try and attack here and really open up the tower here for this to be able to take. 7 seconds of debuff would help us. Going to take down probably, I'm gonna say this spider here because there are 2 level 2 typhoons, and then I'm probably just going to go for a mountain. We do have some nice spaces here. I mean, look at that. almost as if it was made for it. Perfect 7 by 7 squares, even on the right side of the tower. So that kind of illustrates where the mountains could have gone in the next round. So I think I'm going to put it here kind of centrally. And then we have one missile left, which we could use here or there, kind of up to preference. Let's maybe use it here on the crawler. I think the Phoenixes should be able to get in. Bit of a shame that both of them shoot at the same piece of wall, but a slightly delayed debuff here isn't necessarily the worst because it allows for all of these units to kind of get in. And now that most of the chaff is gone, we get the debuff when we're trying to deal with those vortexes. And yeah, debuff here, very, very nice. Looks like it's going all right. Another play could have also been to perhaps drop the Rhino there in the middle and actually take this tower as well. That probably would have gone a bit better, get that double tower debuff, but this would have gotten there. And yeah, here we've got a level 2 mountain, as I mentioned. That starts to get very difficult for the vortexes to kill. And you kind of got over the hurdle of unlocking, you know, your first mountain and putting it on the field. Now you can sell the Phoenix or keep it, try to, you know, pressure the tower even more. Or you can just, you know, build another mountain here, range them, and should probably be fine. At least your opponent at that stage will have to do something else other than just spamming more vortexes. That just simply won't get there anymore. Anyways, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me down in the comments below what you think of the new season. Are you enjoying it or not? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date on latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.